welcome to Unscripted Gaming's TV watch show, Postscripted.
Colon.
Love is unscripted.
Love is unscripted.
That title could be shorter.
It could be,
With Dante from Devil May Cry.
but it's not.
Finally.
It's
And
it's
Knuckles.
not going to be, because today we are getting into watching Love is Blind, the illustrious dating show on Netflix. I am Josh, joined by my co-hosts Mike
Hello.
and Ray.
Hey.
We are gonna sit down here now that Ray has actually watched the correct season and episodes.
Current season question mark.
Current season question mark.
Current season question mark.
And he knows who we're talking about, and we know who he's talking about. We're gonna talk about Love is Blind, season 6, episode 1 and 2. Forewarning, obviously, we are going to be spoiling things heavily. So if you want to join us for this discussion, make sure that you watch the episodes first. A, so you have context, and B, you don't get spoiled, because things get cooking in these two episodes with Nick and Vanessa Lachey hosting the show, and a bunch of eligible singles from the Charlotte, North Carolina area looking for love, asking the question, Snake, can love bloom even in a 10-foot box in a warehouse?
Okay, so I'm gonna get this out of the way and destroy any sort of YouTube monetization we were gonna get. My first note is "fuck you, Lachey's!" Exclamation point. Just to get that out of the way.
Nick and Vanessa are amazing.
They seem so fake. They seem like the type of person I would avoid at all costs. That's me personally.
They also don't do anything in the show. They're just like
Yeah.
they have like half an hour of work for this entire.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they host the reunion. I
So
guess. Never mind.
real quick, I think we kind of talked about this in our preseason, primer, but a little bit of context. So I have been watching reality television. I like to say with my wife, but I've been a fan before her. So I've been watching reality television for a long time. Been a Bachelor fan, Bachelorette fan, a lot of stuff like that. Mike has kind of just thrown 2 feet into the pool very recently. Ray doesn't give 2 shits about anything and any of these people. So we've got a lot of range of emotion and feelings here.
We do have the Survivor history.
We do
which
have
is
the Survivor.
I want to
yeah.
circle back to that in a bit. Sorry, go ahead.
But I will say, compared to like The Bachelor, Chris, the old host on that, still was not involved a ton in the moment to moment, but it did feel like he made appearances a little more frequently. Now I will say, in some of the other shows like The Ultimatum, Nick and Vanessa do take a little more direct role, because there are a few more group meetings and things where they get involved. But yeah, they're really kind of like, they don't really do much until the reunion.
Right. Oh man, we might have to do the ultimatum next. Oh boy. Don't tell Ray about that one. Ray, don't look it up. We gotta say that for the next one.
The Ultimatum is so good.
So yeah.
Well, Mike, I don't know, Mike or Ray, if you have any thoughts on kind of like, we kick off, obviously, we get a little bit of a montage. We get Nick and Vanessa kind of, talking to the men and the women in their respective quarters, just, kind of going over what they're about to do, getting ready for the first set of dates. And, really everybody's dressed to the nines. They're ready to go. Everybody's really excited. There's a lot of hype. So, any thoughts as kind of things kicked off, or anything you wanted to point out from the early part of the show?
Yes. So in our primer episode, Ray, you remember mentioning how a big moment for you was realizing that people on Survivor actually like get food and that they're not starving.
Yeah.
What?
So, ironically enough, Love is Blind and the production are being sued. Part of the allegations here from a prior participant on the show.
Mhm.
Is that like, hey, they just tried to very aggressively like get us boozed up to produce like, compelling reality television, and didn't
Mm.
ever like feed us to make the booze like more effective. So now in this season,
Mhm.
in kind of a response to that, food, bountiful food everywhere.
I see. Yeah.
So which is a not the way things is. Like my wife Sarah, like is like very noticeably is like, oh my god, there's so much food. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't know, it looks like a regular amount of food to me. But like in the absence, compared to like previous seasons, the food is like blah.
Yeah.
Because ironically, they did not feed people.
Which
That's
Unlike
amazing.
Survivor.
Which I will say, and this is not one of those I'm trying to defend the behavior, but I will say is like a pretty common thing that happens in reality television of this style. Like, there's a lot of alcohol and not a lot of food. Like, the Real Housewives are very, very guilty of this. Like, just handing them drinks all the time, not really feeding them much, and getting everybody wasted so that you have really great television. I will say, thankfully, despite the presence of food in this season, there are still plenty of just absolute idiotic drunken moments between the participants of the experiment, and I'm very excited for you guys to see some of those.
I did notice that there were a lot more bagels everywhere during episode 2. Like, wow, that's an obnoxious amount of carbs just sitting
Mm-hmm.
right there. That's amazing. And they actually showed them like cooking a meal in episode 1. I was like, hey, I watched the first 2 episodes of the first season. They never showed this. They showed the guys working out and they showed the women doing yoga, but they never showed them eating. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, yeah, that doesn't shock me at all. Like the fact that they were because and I'll just go back to season 1 real quick. They had some healthy wine glasses when they would get into those boxes. They were sitting there like, just put half the bottle in this here glass, and I'm gonna go try to chat up somebody.
Hell
let
yeah.
me go. Let me go find me a mate.
I cannot tell you how unironically I want some of those gold wine glasses, cups. Like, and I think it didn't start immediately in season 1, but like it came soon that essentially they started putting those gold glasses for editing purposes because you can't see the amount of liquid in them, so there's no
Right.
issue with continuity errors.
Yeah.
But I unironically want some of those gold wine glasses.
I think this is
The best part, Ray, you'll get to see this soon, is like once they get out of the pods and they go elsewhere, the wine glasses don't go away. So they'll be out in public and they're still drinking out of these ridiculous gold wine glasses at like a restaurant in Charlotte, North Carolina. Just it's
yeah,
it's so good.
Man, I have opinions on apologies to our listeners in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm going to unload when we get to Charlotte, North Carolina proper, because your city is ugly and unappealing. It's just, oh buddy, yikes.
Wow.
Anyways, so I guess for like a little table setting before we kind of really dive in here. So for those who don't know, the premise of Love is Blind is young-ish, kind of ready to marry people, basically. So kind of mid-20s is probably the youngest in our group right now.
I think there's the 24. I think is the youngest participant that at least is featured on the show this season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's someone in their like mid-30s on this show.
Yeah, so you got like a range of, but still like kind of young, but not like 20, 21. Like you very like post-college, definitely.
Yeah.
Bachelors and bachelorettes basically do literally blind dating, right? Where they go into these rooms where their date is on the other side of the room, and you don't get to see see what they look like until somebody is proposed to get married to in like 5 weeks, basically, like 1 week for a honeymoon vacation thing, and then 4 weeks living together before like the wedding happens. And only after that proposal is accepted, you get to see that person. That's the first time that happens. So like all of the show is just like all of these different people talking to a bunch of different, kind of doing a bunch of speed dating to try and figure out what is like who they want to date and
who do they have an deep emotional connection with,
right.
so much that they fall in love. Now I will say, and Ray kind of made this comment about season 1, and I don't know if Ray you felt this, like, yes, like obviously there are a lot of very attractive people, but there are also a lot of like more like normal looking folks or less than conventionally attractive folks in.
We'll get to this. But,
yeah,
you know,
so they do try and put a good mix together. And I will say, in previous seasons and in this one, like you always get your handful of people who try and like, ask their shady questions about like trying to figure out if somebody looks a certain way or getting a little bit of it, but like people who are really fully truly diving into the experiment, as they refer to it constantly throughout the show, are trying to avoid that and just build that emotional connection and finding out if they can fall in love with somebody sight unseen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can go into the notes that I have for this.
This
program.
I guess maybe just to kind of get started here, like, because I'm trying to think like how we want to like go about this. Like, let's kind of meet the cast, I guess, and get our initial thoughts here. So there's like, is it like 12 and 12 or something? I forget how many. Like,
it's 12 and 12 or 15 and 15, I believe. And I want to say, at least for this one, they've done a better job of like highlighting mostly people who are going to carry on to the show. You get your randos here and there who are like involved in the experiment but leave or don't get proposed to, or for whatever reason. I think in previous seasons they did a little more of the kind of misdirection of who, you're going to spend 2 episodes with this person and they're not going to get engaged, but like it's a little more
it's pretty focused.
It's focused on at least one of the people in this relationship is going to move on to the rest of the show. So, I don't know if there are any folks that you want to like highlight, any favorites. I know Mike has some thoughts on Trevor.
We got to talk about Trevor.
We got to. He's so big.
I think Trevor is the first individual person I have a note about. I just say episode 1, Trevor hair is crazy. The body is crazier. Big meaty claws, like like Larry from SpongeBob. Like he's an incredibly large man.
He seems like a scaled down version of that dude on TikTok who like holds the can, like the soda can in his hand, and like it looks like a toy, one of the mini cans to him. Like that's who Trevor reminds me of.
And like, Trevor goes on a bit of a journey, but I was immediately down for Trevor because he seems really nice. He seems like a kind of guy who could be like a big like kind of dick, but is not, because he's nice and is cool, but also could crush my head with his forearms.
Yeah.
We love our warrior philosopher king, Trevor. Godspeed.
I have notes about Trevor.
Let's hear him.
Let's hear him. What are your thoughts on?
I think my second note of all of season 6, and this is just me like stream of conscious writing this down. Trevor, I hate him already. So I don't know what Mike is getting to.
Why?
But
Why do you hate Trevor? Explain the hate.
that goes into note number 5. Trevor, to quote him, I want a huge sexual emotional attraction. My note, this is a system where you can't see anyone. How do you get number 2 of the sexual attraction? You're not going to get that.
Now,
I did
this
love in that
is-
moment when Chelsea just goes, "Are you a nympho?" He's like, "No, I just,
Oh yeah, I have a note about that. That exact conversation. The note says Trevor is a fuckboy.
Oh man, oh boy.
So when you're calling-
I will say-
I think Trevor's the least fuckboy on here, if you ask me. Well, maybe not Johnny, but we love Johnny.
We do love Johnny's a fuckboy in a positive way, though. I think for the most part.
Johnny's a
for Johnny,
fuckboy.
I'm-
Parentheses non-derogatory.
Yeah, non-derogatory. He's what a fuckboy should have been. I will say, so I did talk so Trevor and Chelsea, one of the early relationships that you get to see, one of the first dates. They seem to have a pretty strong connection. And my first note for them is they start talking. I'm like, these are two basic bitches. Like, they have a good connection, but like, I was talking to my wife about this. I hate The Notebook. And even when I was young, like, I'm a rom-com fan. I like a good romance. Like, I'm not afraid to admit it. But even then, I was like, The Notebook is so toxic, but it was so popular because it was young Ryan Gosling and blah, blah, blah. But no, The Notebook sucks. And if The Notebook is your favorite romantic movie, that's a big fucking red flag to me personally.
Yeah, that fed into my Trevor is a fuckboy comment. Where he's like
it's a little too bait to be like, oh
yeah,
The
it's
Notebook.
absolutely. It's like asking it to me. It is like the equivalent of saying, "Oh, you like video games? Do you like Sonic the Hedgehog?" It's like, what? So you know a video game? Congratulations.
Yeah, that's dude just knows that he should say The Notebook to a woman, and they're gonna think, oh, you're in touch with your feelings, and you love Ryan Gosling. Ah,
It's actually not that great of a movie.
it's terrible.
Yeah, I said
It's
it.
toxic.
I haven't seen it.
Ryan Gosling's character is an ass. He threatens to commit suicide
You
to
should
get
watch it
somebody
at
to
least
go
once,
on a
yeah.
date with him who's already on a date. It's fucking terrible. Like,
Yeah.
Just say Titanic. That's all you got to do. Just say Titanic.
It's actually worse.
James Cameron the goat. What?
Because the message you get out of the movie The Notebook is like, well, this is clearly the perfect relationship, and it's like, no, this is a horrific relationship. You would call the cops if someone like this existed.
while we're on the
all
top,
of this to say, the best part about Trevor is that, like, one, he's hot, and also like stupid in the right way. We'll talk about stupid in the wrong
he's
way.
a big dumb boy. Speaking of stupid in the wrong way, Chelsea going on about how she sometimes just goes to the Home Depot looking for a husband. Just boy howdy.
Am I right?
Oh, let's bounce over to Chelsea here. So Chelsea is
She is a flight attendant.
flight attendant.
She has a secret that gets revealed a little bit later when we get to the most epic bag fumbler in the world. We'll talk about her reveal, but she's got a little secret that she's hiding. But yeah, Chelsea, she's an interesting bird for sure.
She's like one of our big central characters we're going to carry forward here, so we'll spend a lot of time talking about Chelsea.
Yes, 'cause she gets embroiled in a little bit of a love quartet situation. So
right.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we unpack that first, because that's like the big plot. I guess like the
Wait.
big arc of this first. Oh, sorry, Ray, go ahead.
Before we do, I had like 2 characters I wanted to fire off. Like,
Oh,
load
let's-
them into
let's
the
hear 'em.
shotgun. One, Vince, who during his opening said, and this show was killing me, like slowly inside. I felt some of my neuron synapses like detaching as I heard some of the people talking. Vince, who they introduced as a 35-year-old man, admits that he does not know how to do his own laundry. I thought that this is the
That
part
man
where,
is a lawyer.
I thought, like, this is it. Mike is trying to kill me. He is actually trying to murder me. Watch my brain slowly turn into black goo and fall out of my ear. And then there is Jessica. This becomes a major, I guess, plot point. But I was just really, really more annoyed with it than anything. Jessica, I have a child, but I can't tell anyone about it. I can't just leave with that fact.
This is we have to spend a lot of time on this. So we will circle back to Jessica and Jimmy.
I do have a note for Jimmy. My note number 8. I like Jimmy. Note number 9. Never mind. I don't like Jimmy.
I hate Jimmy.
It was a roller coaster.
Jimmy.
It was like, I don't know. I can
Jimmy...
as a character, and then like the kayfabe WrestleMania hit with the middle chair. Nope, never mind.
Never has somebody fumbled the bag so epically on television as our dear boy Jimmy.
Wait,
Jimmy is like,
what is it you feel
he's
did?
like, he looks like a Celtics fan with like, but like you put a dog brain into a human. That's like, that's the vibe I get from Jimmy.
Golden Retriever vibes.
Right, but like, it's I can't like. I will admit, he has a bad time in the pods here, because does that happen? Hold on, I gotta check my notes.
So
in the first episode,
I want to say
second episode.
It's the second episode. The first episode, pretty good. Like, you know, he and Jessica hit it off pretty early on. You know, there's an awkward marriage joke right off the bat. She's like, "Oh, you sound like my future husband," and you know they start form a strong connection. I wrote down here that she says something along the lines, "It's crazy that it doesn't sound crazy." I'm like, sounds a little crazy still, but
this entire show is crazy. Like the core concept is crazy.
My next note after this, though, during this conversation, because we got Jimmy with Jessica, and she's talking about how immediately they have this connection, and I was like, in big bold letters, why do we think Jimmy has Riz? Like,
I do not understand.
He doesn't have the juice. I don't understand it. I don't understand.
I think it's his voice.
Desperate times in Charlotte, North Carolina. Things are bad. Things are not good there.
I mean, okay.
Imagine being a Panthers fan, right, and then having to go to Love Is Blind and find a husband. Imagine that's your life. Okay. Like,
I was about to say, when you say desperate times, I think to go on this show, you're at the peak of desperation at a certain point. You know what I mean? And I say that with love and respect, but let's be real here.
Oof. Yeah.
I got a lot of notes. I got a lot of notes about one specific character. I have way too many notes about this one.
I mean, personally, you know, I don't know that you have to be desperate. Like I think I'd thrive on a show like that. I think I'd be pretty good in the pods. Like,
I'm not gonna lie, you'd probably do okay on.
I would do all right, and I wouldn't do it because I'd be desperate. It's just like, hey, I'm single. I've got an opportunity. Let's see if Love Is Blind. Let's do it.
You know how I spent 1 year deployed to Iraq? I would rather spend a year in Afghanistan than go to Love Is Blind. Not even joking.
You could stay in the hotel.
Not even
talk
joking.
To people.
Oh my god!
I would never put myself.
Go to Mexico for your honeymoon, like, bro. It would be amazing.
At least I get the combat pay.
You get to like vibe with other boys and like the guys.
Yo, the dudes connection. Like, just wait until we get to like some of the later stuff. Like the dudes connection, dudes rock. Like, all we'll say is dudes rock.
I will say, like, so now that we've kind of talked about like our first love square, which is like Jessica, Jimmy,
Chelsea and
Trevor.
It's more like it's like a love Z kind of, you know.
Yeah, love Zed.
Love Zed. We get our soon after this we get our introduction to Matthew.
Oh
yes,
brother.
That's how I have the most notes on. This is the most. If anything, proved to me that all this is fake kayfabe. I love Matthew villain. The Matthew villain
I think is a plant. I'm not gonna lie.
The fact that Matthew is Canadian because he threw way too many ace out there. Like, got your ass. You're definitely
got him.
North.
Fucking roasted.
when he threw down the notes and says, "I got 20 questions here, and need you to pick one," I'm like, finally, someone that's taken this serious.
So because we get the 2 episodes where we see the full arc. When Love Is Blind first came out a couple months ago, I'm in a group chat with Mike's wife, who Mike has now been added to, and another friend, just because we love to talk our reality trash. And one of the friends was talking about how refreshing it was at first to see Matthew. Like, yes, Matthew struggles. Matthew's a bit of a dick, but it was good to see somebody who seems like potentially socially awkward, neurodivergent, not your typical conversator on the show, and like making an effort, because it's good representation. It's good to see somebody
diabolical.
That opinion changed very rapidly, but early on, beginning of the episode, we see Matthew. He's got a list of questions because he's a finance guy, and he's like, "Hey, pick a number between 1 and 15. I'm gonna ask you the question." He asks his date the question, and then she says, "What about you?" And he goes, "I didn't really expect to answer these." And I'm like, "Bro, what?" Like,
I love that line. I think I remember that. And I quote, "Ha ha 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 ha, Matthew. I didn't expect questions." I love it. Also, the note right below that, haha, at Matthew just straight up leaving a pod at a bad question. My man, that is great.
So,
dude, the walkout on Sarah Ann was brutal. Like, come on.
Now, this
answer
is
your own question.
We'll get into this more in the reunion, but I will say, so I've seen the entire season. I've seen the reunion. So watching it again, I'm like trying to watch for stuff, because there is some discourse that happened as like the show aired, where Matthew was like saying, you know, obviously they edited some stuff. I didn't just walk out on her, and Sarah Ann seemed to corroborate that. But they also show Sarah Ann going like, "Is he gone? Oh, thank God." Like mouthing that, like that she's so happy that he fucking left. So like, yeah, that was, bro was having a rough time out there.
Actually, for a lot of reasons that you guys might not like, I liked how unserious Matthew as even a character was. Let's pretend, okay, let's drop the kayfabe. Let's say he was for real. Let's say this was a real ass human being, and this was him just recognizing it. And I'll break a little bit in episode 2. The fact that he's constantly acknowledging, hey, this is just a stupid effing TV show. I'm actually here trying to find someone. I told my therapist I was going here, and they said that was a bad idea, but I'm going to try it anyways. I'm like, this is the most real person I think on here. I think I relate to him more than anyone else.
That's what you fucking think. That's what they want you to think.
Yep.
Okay.
And just
I'm not trying to be a C-list celebrity. I'm trying to find somebody I love. Yeah. So then we get into Matt and AD.
You're like F-list, okay?
Yep. To where we start our next, what we think is initially a love triangle, but we soon learn is also another love Zed. But we've got Matt and AD. They're having a nice little conversation. You know, they're seemingly getting deep. You know, AD seems a little off-put at first. She's like, "Oh, you know, you made an impression, Matthew." And then he starts to like really get into it, and you know, they make a connection, and you know, AD eventually goes back to the group, and she's like, "I had a really nice date with Matthew," and everyone's like, "Fucking who are you?" I'm sorry, there's no way you just said Matthew was the one you had a great time with. Yeah, that fucking
like,
loser.
Matthew's getting riffed about in the guy's room too.
Yeah,
like, and he's like walking in there like a fucking ghost, and they're all like, "What the?" I just love it.
This is why I said I would absolutely Ray, you have a choice. Go on Love Is Blind or enlist into the Air Force. Give me the contract.
Oh, buddy.
I wouldn't deal with like I said before. If you told me I had to be in the same room as like Trevor or Jimmy for an extended period of time, I'd give me a wrench and give me an F-15 Strike Eagle. I would rather work on those for the next 6 years or something.
That's fair.
But also,
AD seems nice.
AD seems
great.
lovely. But
You
speaking
like
of AD,
sure.
we have to talk about Clay.
Oh boy.
Oh, I have plenty of notes about Clay.
Oh,
Clay
Clay
is like the capital F kind of fuck boy.
Oh,
Dude,
yeah. Definitely.
He's got that slick swagger. He has all of the right words to say. He's got that good vocal cadence. You know, he can get on that smooth radio voice and just like, oh.
I almost wish, and I hope he is. I hope Clay is kayfabe, because what a repugnant human being that we have thrown into this this program, if you will. Here's a couple of my notes. Note about Clay: he doesn't like cats. Well, he does like cats. What he likes about cats is I don't have to love them all the time. I'm like, okay, I think I get what you're trying to say, but that was the most effed up way you could have like said that sentence. Also, LOL at Clay just straight up breaking the rules and asking about AD's appearance.
He's like, hey,
That's
do you have
great.
nice lips? And it's like, Clay, dude. He's so porn brained sometimes. It's like,
I love it.
dude, you gotta like.
I love the audacity.
I will say though, like, you know, you do sometimes in this show see people really, really trying to like go out of their comfort zone, be really self-reflective. And AD is one of those people. She's like, man, you know, Clay is the kind of guy I would always go for and would always break my heart. And I really just can't do that anymore. Like, I need to get outside of that. And then 2 seconds later, she's like, AD all day. Oh, Clay, let's go.
Oh no, AD.
I do have
AD,
this.
No, don't do
I
it.
do
AD,
have this line
no.
for AD from episode 2. I'm going to skip down to the AD Clay note I have. AD, I kind of like Clay because I'm such a fix-a-hoe for Clay. She wants to take the bad boy and fix him. Like, you know what? You deserve him. Absolutely. Go for it.
Yeah, like I think in the first couple episodes Clay does go on a bit of an arc of like trying to maybe like recognize he wants to not just be like, hey, I'm Clay. I hope you have a nice booty. But the thing is like, is he just gonna snap back to it the second everything kind of settles down? Like,
It seems
I
like
don't know. Kinda, that's my thought. I don't know.
Seems like a really untrustworthy person, maybe. I mean, if you go on like this type of show, and you say, okay, so it's date 2. All right, so I'm taking some notes here. By the way, what do you look like? You know, this thing ain't gonna work out if you're an uggo. You know what I mean? So I got my notes here. Just tell me what you look like. I just have to be attracted to you, regardless of he tells AD, regardless of emotional connection, I just have to be attracted to you. I wrote that word for word. I'm like, this is great. This is excellent television.
Like at a certain point, you appreciate the honesty, but also like,
I do appreciate in that moment AD calling him out and being like, I mean, I feel connected to you, and I could tell you, but like that's not what we signed up for. That's not what we're here for.
Really good.
And I will say, you know, having watched some of the previous seasons, there have been less forward ways of people trying to ask about, you know, people's appearances. Like somebody was asking in one of the seasons, I think season 4, you know, like, oh, I love to just like give a surprise random piggyback ride. Is that something I could do to you? You know, not just like saying like, oh, you know, like, how you feel about it. It's like, could I physically pick you up?
Right.
Like,
I remember that.
You know, so in some ways, that's
a good one. I think that's a good one.
It is good, but like everybody saw through it. There's a part of me that like, okay, I understand that the whole point of the experiment is love blind. And you know, sometimes we prove it, sometimes we don't. I almost appreciate Clay being more direct about it than like trying to skirt around it and like ask that Michael Scott, could she fit in a rowboat style question.
That's a fair point.
So like part of me is like, okay, Clay, that's shitty, and like I do appreciate, AD calls him out on it, but I do appreciate him just being like direct rather than, hey, could I pick you up, baby?
Right, because like that is just kind of worse
Mhm.
because you're like thinking you're trying to get a fast one.
100%.
I have a note here that just says all caps, look at the milks. What does that mean?
The milks.
Look at the milks.
Why
Were
did
they
you write
drinking?
that?
Were they drinking milk and you noticed it?
I think so. Why did I put this down? This is going to be another running B plot of this podcast, folks.
This is what we'll do is we
deciphering my contemporaneous notes here.
we'll pin a comment on the YouTube video with Mike responding to himself about what he was talking about with the milks, because I have no idea what we're talking about here.
I'm just gonna have to watch this again. Just
Yeah,
to, look at the milks.
I did.
Also, the music is hilarious in this show.
I
by the way,
actually
if you
wrote
haven't
that.
noticed it.
I wrote down, this note is for Mike. The music in this show is rancid.
It rocks. It's so incredibly literal. I think I started in like episode 3. I start writing down my favorite lyrics that we get every now and then, just to keep us abreast of the music situation. We should probably
we get to meet Johnny and Amy. Like they're having a really great vibe. I think we'll have more to say about them towards the end of episode 2 because they build a connection so early, and there's no love triangle there. Like
no.
Johnny and Amy are locked in on each other. They talk about
Amy and Johnny save us.
Yeah,
Amy and Johnny,
they get pretty deep in episode 1 and 2. Like they talk about family issues. Like they get
real
into
good
some stuff there.
like good conversations. And
yeah. My next note that I had was about Jimmy having a spicy wing, and I did relate to that pretty deeply. Of like, oh, it's probably not that spicy, but I got the baby mouth, and him blowing his nose, and Jessica like giving him the weird side eye through the wall.
The Jessica side eye profile is so. Oh my god, it's so good.
I wish I could frame
like the perfect face.
I want that framed on my wall. Just like that is modern art right there.
She's so sassy. I love her. So
I have a note for Jessica.
Yep.
Please get therapy.
This is kind of what I wanted to get to, because this is kind of the big first. This is kind of the other big thing, other than like the stinger of this episode, which we'll obviously get to. But like Jimmy's very bad day in the pod. Because him and
Jimmy had a longest yard style day.
Right. He like the SpongeBob, like Johnny's like chatting with Amy about anime, and he's like SpongeBob in the Silent Hill hallway. That's what he's going through.
Operation Mocking Garden for Jimmy, just like, and then when he gets up recover, gets knocked down again. Because
Jimmy, this is why I fucking hate Jimmy, and I hope he suffers. It's because he's so into Jessica. He's really into it. They're feeling it. This is clicking.
The vibes are good.
And she's like, "Hey, I should probably let you know because we're building this good connection. That like I have a 10-year-old daughter, which is like, like." Obviously, if you do the math, like she had her kind of on the younger side, but like is still here and like still a person. And you can see Jimmy immediately doing the calculus of like, how do I back out of this?
Yep.
The nicest way I possibly can with trying to not like, he's like,
So I wrote
It's
I wrote
actually
this I
secretly
wrote
a
this
deal breaker
down,
for him, but he, like,
and
doesn't wanna
so
admit it.
watching it, I mean, I had a very visceral reaction at this moment the first time watching it, but watching it back again with all the knowledge I have of like what happens this season, what happens in the reunion, all that jazz, like you go from Jimmy opening up, talking about his family, talking about being poor, talking about people judging his family and judging his upbringing and being a first generation college, like he is opening up. And Jessica is like deeply, deeply supporting him, just being like, you know what, yes, like you're amazing, your family is wonderful, I would love your family, like that adversity is incredible, like it's shitty that people treated you that way, yada yada yada, like deep, 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 deep support for Jimmy, who doesn't have any Riz. And then
We
Jimmy
need
in
the women
return
to
gets another
speak to
like
this.
deep thing from Jessica, and he goes, wow, you have a kid. And he says, why didn't you tell me that earlier? Like that's the first thing he says after she says, I didn't want to tell you this right off the bat because I didn't want to like to focus on it, but it is something I have to say before we continue on. And he's like, wow, why didn't you tell me earlier? Like the most epic bag fumble in the fucking play. Like
Jimmy is like,
Hold on, that's what you call the bag fumble? I
Yes.
have this as a note. I say like, wait, that's a fair question to ask.
I
That
think
is-
like
I
That
mean,
is- that is a
like-
life changing. That is a commitment. That's more than like okay.
which is
marriage is
why,
a
like,
commitment.
She mentions it.
Yeah, she mentions it on like date. What is this? I
Their
think they
second
have 3
date.
or
Their
4.
second or
I thought
third
it was
date.
the
Like,
third one. It's like one of those things. Like, oh, by the way, should probably get this out there. I don't know. I'm trying to think of an equivalent. I don't know if there is an equivalent to that. Now that I think about it, like it is something that you have to say when you start dating someone. By the way, I'm a mother, or by the way, I'm a father, single father, single mother, or something like that. I get where he's coming from. I thought that was a fair question to ask, especially like right in the moment.
I think that's a fair assessment, Ray. I think the problem is that Jimmy is Jimmy. And
Mhm.
as we will learn, Jimmy has the emotional intelligence of a Celtics fan, and a dog that has been put into a human body for 24 hours. And just like he just cannot respond. This is a running thread. He just cannot respond to the emotional challenges and questions being presented to him in a way that feels like satisfying, or like from a place that isn't just like, oh shit, I gotta backpedal out of this. Oh fuck, I'm on TV. What do I do? Because that's what I feel. That's what it read like to be, and I just like you could see it all crumbles down from there. But he'll never admit it. That like he'll never just come out and say like you having a 10-year-old daughter was a deal breaker for me. Like he's never going to admit that.
I think that's the thing of like having the cameras on you and knowing that there is a little bit of falseness to all this. Because yeah, if you went on a third date with someone and on the third date they just kind of dropped the hammer of BT dubs, I have a school-age child. It's like, oh, this is something I wish you brought up to the fore. I know more about your favorite food than I knew about that.
and you know, so my oldest child is 7.5. I have not dated in a long time. I also have 3 kids, so it's a little different for me. But like,
right.
I do think that there is some grace that is due to Jessica in this moment of like, it is a unique dating situation. You are getting very condensed, but also a lot of like one-on-one time together. And a 10-year-old, like, when you have the father
they
very
got that stuff
involved,
figured out, right?
like they're
you know.
pretty independent. Like, yes, you are going to be a stepfather or a stepmother to this child, but like they're almost in middle school. They don't need their diapers changed. Like, it's not like
Right.
you could very easily
10-year-old is different than like a 2.5-year-old.
and there are lots of step
Right.
parents who are respected by their stepchildren, but like when the parents are very good co-parents, it's like, hey, mom and dad are the primaries here. Like, you know, sometimes we call you in when we need to because like you're around, but like your parenting of this child is very limited because you're my husband, not their parent. So like in the modern dating context, in the way that people do things, I don't think it is as unusual for somebody to like maybe not necessarily talk about the kid right away, especially because there is so many assumptions and baggage put on single mothers as
Right.
used goods in our fucking ridiculous patriarchal society. Like, I don't blame Jessica for not like opening up right about that.
Not being like, hi,
Also-
my name is Jessica. I have a 10-year-old daughter.
because then like she says, like, it's a big part of her life, but it doesn't define her. But the second you say you're a mom in this country, that's all people can see you as. They don't see you as a potential sexual partner. They see you as a mom and a burden to their life.
I feel like someone that has dated recently, like me and Anna got married 2 years ago. If you go to any dating profile, that's typically front and center, my guys. And you make the decision from there, or like it comes up on the first date. It just does, and it's weird if it doesn't. Now, Jessica's in this weird situation where she has, and this is, I want to give her grace, but she's kind of put herself into this situation, like purposely, of like, yeah, I'm going to do this very, very awkward dating thing where no one really gets to really know me visually. We're just kind of like boom, boom, boom dating. And I'm going to hide this nuclear bomb of information. And when it blows up, it's, as someone that every time on this show, and I took a note about that, Jess keeps crying about her child. Dear God, she clearly misses her. Someone please get this woman therapy. She is clearly not okay. This is not okay.
I think our biggest go to therapy. It's a rude thing to say, like, hey, go to therapy a little bit, but I think it's just to kind of transition out of this discussion because, like, I think there's validity to both aspects. Like,
yeah.
But like, I personally think Jimmy had a really bad reaction here. And
I don't think it was
Jessica
great,
feels
no.
it that way. Feels that way.
1,000,000,000%.
And then
I can't say too much
Chelsea
because
Jimmy.
I am clouded by the knowledge of what transpires in the rest of the show, so I have to tamp my discussion a little bit as if I'd only watched episode 1 and 2. But then Jimmy goes from this date to a date with Chelsea where she reveals that she has in fact previously been married.
Yep.
And boy, howdy, does Jimmy not respond well
Jimmy's
to
like,
this reveal either.
Everything sucks for me.
He kind
just
of
like-
freezes up. Yeah,
Which is why I say Jimmy fumbles the bag so hard because like he's built a connection with two wonderful women and they both open up to him and he both shits right on their chests. Just like
Oh my lord! What the hell?
in like the
Okay.
worst way possible. Like, I am not here for either of you women. And
First Mike with the milk, and now Josh with the Cleveland Steamer. What is wrong with you two?
This is also why I don't understand why anybody thinks Jimmy has the Riz, because when the going gets
Like-
tough, Jimmy gets going, and they both still want him, and I don't understand.
Like, Jimmy is just, I can't begin to describe how much I despise Jimmy and his just complete lack of, like, again, we'll get to some really juicy Jimmy stuff, but again, like the 10-year-old daughter is one thing, but like, hey, I was married before
Yeah,
is comparatively, I think, in my opinion, a less kind of life-altering, like, big thing that you need to know.
Yeah.
And again, like, Jimmy has like the terrible reaction, and then obviously, like, Chelsea is someone who's very like Chelsea probably needs a little too much external validation.
Mm-hmm.
Is something I pick up on very
Yes.
early on.
That
and
is a
is,
spoiler I'll
like,
give you for the rest of the season. Yes. Chelsea needs the most external validation. If there's somebody who needs therapy, it's Chelsea. But what I always love about any reality television, we got our first good cry, baby. Number 1 right off the bat. Let's go.
Wait, what? First good. Oh, you're talking about
Chelsea cries because of this. Just like big. Just Jimmy doesn't care about me. Oh.
Oh my goodness.
That's what I watch reality television for. Episode 1, we get the first one. It's amazing.
I actually don't have a lot of notes about Jimmy because I found like most of the stuff they're just like, this is just. I didn't take a ton of notes on his reactions because I felt like, hey, there's a certain point where I don't. Obviously, I'm not in love with this particular show. This entire thing of us watching it is like for the bit, but I feel like
It's not a bit.
this was exploitative at a certain point.
It's
Like,
not a
like,
bit.
like, no, I know it's not a bit. We're obviously watching it, but yeah, this particular part felt like, oh gosh, geez. I feel like we're watching someone like having a serious moment, and I hope someone talks to them. Like when I say please seek therapy, I mean legitimately like I hope that you have a good counselor, and I hope you get these feelings out, not on Netflix. Legitimately. But yes, we got to hear
We're almost to the end of episode 1 here. So
Oh, I'm on episode 2. Where are you at?
So real quick, we're wrapping up here with our little love Zed here. So Chelsea has her bag fumbled by Jimmy. She goes to talk to Trevor. Trevor handles it much better. He makes a joke, but you can you can see that Chelsea is not as present as she should be to like the way that Trevor is handling her because she's so upset about Jimmy. Like Trevor's making jokes and he's like trying to ask her questions, and you can just see that she's a million miles elsewhere. She does start to engage in the conversation. She asks about, him ever getting close. Like he asks her if she's was ever close to getting married, and she's like, "Oh, I was married." He's like, "So would you say that was close?" Like he's funny about it, whatever.
Right, he's good.
She asked him if he was ever close to getting married. He says, "The last girl that I was with, I thought I was going to marry, but I didn't." Just remember that. Just remember that moment.
Okay.
Jimmy and Johnny and Amy cute together. The last thing, episode 1, Matthew. We get a little bit of more time with AD. They have a lovely date.
Make a connection.
They build a connection, and he's like, "Hey, I'm talking about asking the dad, and hey, you know what? I could come pick you up. We could run away together." I'm like, "Oh my god, that's so sweet."
Get a fast car,
Then AD goes back to the group room, and she talks to a friend, and hears her say how Matthew talked about coming to pick up the friend and take her home away from this experiment.
Amber, but yeah, he drops the exact
same line. And AD, the last thing I wrote was like, "AD, fix your face," because like, boy, her gabbers were flaccid in that moment. Oh my god!
This is the magic, right? It's like they kind of build up Matthew as like the kind of episode 1 villain. Give him like the
potentially neurodivergent, lovable, affable idiot who's like, he doesn't really know how to do social, but like he might find love. And then you find out, oh, he is playing 2 women with the exact same playbook.
What a dog. What a killer.
I have this note here. LOL, the Matthew villain arc.
The edit is just truly diabolical. Like,
yeah, the edit of like dun dun. They're playing the music, and he's just drinking the wine by himself over off in the corner.
I love how the second episode starts with like the web of lies being revealed, and the other guys are like, "What's this fucking deal?" So like, the big kind of arc of episode 2 is like Amber and AD getting together to like check the notes, and then to kind of jump back to them like AD and Clay have a date that's going pretty well. You can kind of start to see like Clay like trying to. I said I liked his sweatshirt here.
It is a good sweatshirt.
Clay's like maybe doing a little bit better, but then finds out that like AD's been dating Matthew, and he goes ballistic.
Clay does not handle that news well at all. Which
My
like
note for this is Clay being dissed for Matthew is hilarious. This is excellent kayfabe.
It's so good.
I will say, especially seeing the way that the dudes vibe with Matthew in the room together and the way they all act, I'm not a very jealous person, but if it were revealed that I was up against Matthew for somebody's attention, I'd be probably pretty pissed too. So I can't fault Clay too much. I'm not going to say that he handles it well, but I also get it. Like, bro, Matthew, of all people, that's the one you're also vibing with? Like, I'm sorry, who are you?
I think they're so different. Like,
Josh, you just need to recognize a player stronger than you. All right, recognize the game.
Game recognized game, right?
You got to bring the binder.
That's your problem. He's over there while you're over there scheming and planning. He's over there playing nose to the grindstone.
Love his spreadsheets, baby. Love his spreadsheets.
Asking questions he can't answer.
What are you doing over there, Clay? Putting on a fake ass radio voice and getting dissed.
I think, is this the Jeremy CPAP reveal, or is that
What the hell are you talking about?
Is that later? Is that in the next episode?
It might be a little later, but we do get introduced to a couple love interests that we didn't get introduced into episode 1. Key among them is Jeremy and Laura. They were not featured in episode 1. They are in episode 2. We get some time.
I love Laura.
Laura is great.
We love Laura.
And we get Jeremy with Sarah Ann as well a little bit in that episode. I will say I do love AD confronting Matthew and just being like, "Listen, bro, the shit you said to me, I heard from somebody else saying the exact same line. Tell me about that."
I like Matthew's response because I took a note here. Matthew just looks dead at the wall, the separation wall, and says, "You've been talking to Amber, haven't you?"
Matthew do be Gendo posing. Like,
He do. I love the Matthew villain arc. I think this is great. This is the best thing on the show so far. Just like a guy playing all the corners. He's got the spreadsheets. He's got
I will mathematically secure a wife via my annoying
He doesn't even
question.
talk to the other guys. He's like, "You're not in my periphery." He walks over, gets like a thing of water, walks away. He's like, "Matthew, here's your notebook." Walks over.
What is he? It's like Sigma.
He's
right?
not here to make friends. He's here to find a wife. Like, why would he talk to these dudes?
Hyper Sigma male energy.
Oh my god.
Nightmare.
So after that, we also get introduced to Kenneth and Brittany. We get into we see Kenneth in the first episode. 25-year-old school principal, immediate red flag.
Speak on this.
But
that's weird.
It is so weird because, like,
why is that weird?
He's 25 years. At 25 years old, you do not have the life experience or even the job experience to run a whole educational institution. You just don't. You're not smart enough. You're not experienced enough. You don't have enough of the like, you're not ready. There is not a
trying to keep a black man down. That's what he's doing.
Wow!
Joshua out here saying DEI against Kenneth. I'm not standing for it.
And then, okay, I can't say that. Never mind. But like,
Wow.
I
All
will
right.
say, like,
To my wife who is going to listen to this later. I was trying to. I guess I need to disrupt the deficit narrative.
much to consider, folks. We're working
How
and
do we
learning
go?
and growing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like, that's to become a principal. It's like, how much time did you spend in a classroom before becoming a principal? Like, at 25 is like, how much time could you have feasibly spent in a classroom?
At most, you could have been a active classroom teacher for 3 years. That is not enough. That's not enough
feels
to be
brief, at
that
the
is
very
not
least.
enough to be an administrator of a whole ass building. And if I need to bring my educator wife who has her master's onto this program to tell you why no 25-year-old, regardless of race, Ray, is qualified to be a administrator of an entire ass building.
So consider this. I'm just gonna throw this. I'm gonna swish this in your glass, switch it in your mouth. Tell me what it tastes like. What if he's the principal of a low-income school and no one else was taking the job? He was
Yeah,
the
what
only one.
if it's like a shitty building, Josh? You ever think about that? Huh?
Yeah.
Is that what you were saying? Huh?
I'm saying like weirder things have happened.
If I'm gonna push back and say, I'm pretty sure he is the principal of a charter school, because it is unlikely that even a low-income school would hire somebody of his age, because there are plenty of administrators with the proper education and certification to hire for the most part in the world.
I wish Kenneth was here. It's like, you're starting to disqualify me for a job I have.
And I would imagine that his is not a federally like it's not
for getting canceled first.
Yeah, me.
Right.
Yeah. I hate black excellence. Like, it's right. You heard it here first. Obviously, that's what I'm saying with this conversation.
I have problems with this show on the fundamental level. Josh has problems with people's individual jobs. He's like, what the F you mean you're a school principal? So out of pocket.
I would say the same thing if he was white. I don't know if that helps.
Josh says, I hate all principals equally.
I don't see race of principals. I just see their age, and 25 is not old enough.
Look, this is maybe someone could be
Everybody with a kente cloth hat goes look at that Josh like.
Look, maybe you just need to be a little bit.
My name is Paul Andreades Muad'Dib.
I have your permanent record. It's like, it's a Dune podcast, everybody.
Wow.
You got pranked. You thought we were doing Love is Blind. No, it's Dune Pod.
Thank God.
Yeah, Kenneth and Brittany. They seem
Kenneth the
cute
realist.
here.
My main thing is also weird church vibe. Like,
Yeah, very churchy.
They're very churchy.
All right.
After that, I had, Johnny and Amy. We got our first I love you. Johnny literally, he literally can't contain himself. He's just like, I love you. And
Amy,
she's like,
Johnny.
oh, I love you too.
Amy's so cute. Johnny's a king. He's a little short king. We love Amy, Johnny. If you can hear us.
After that, I wrote Jimmy ... With
I do have a note about Johnny. Johnny singing Three Kings was very cute.
That was. We got our first proposal, episode 2. We got our first proposal. Johnny proposes to Amy.
Johnny, yes.
She says yes. It's amazing.
God.
Then we go
So
back.
good.
We go back to our Matthew and
Chelsea.
AD.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I have a Jimmy Chelsea note because this is again another I think key thing for Jimmy going forward, because again he's still actively trying to backpedal out of the Jess conversations, and I don't think we get a really direct follow up on that in this episode, but the walk back is still happening very slowly here. And especially because he goes fucking cartoon wolf, like honk honk a wooga when Chelsea says, oh, sometimes people said I look like Megan Fox. Which is like, again, like you
Was
don't
that
set
okay?
yourself up like that.
So
Don't do that to
I was
yourself.
doing a quick and dirty rewatch. Is this in episode 2's where she says that?
Yes.
Man, you can see I do like I didn't see this moment on the rewatch because I was watching like I watched it at lunch break. I was going 1.5. I was just like scrubbing through to like remind myself what happened in this, and I must have overlooked that part, but I still remember the look on Jimmy's face, and it's exactly what Mike said. Like he does the honk honk awooga like smile of just like, oh my god, Megan Fox. I watched her Transformers when I was a kid. Oh my god.
Ray can't raise beside himself.
I took no notes on that. I said, nah, I'm not even gonna dignify that.
Just like, again, like it kind of, not to like armchair diagnose, but that's what we're doing here. Obviously, duh. Move aside, folks, if you have a conscience. But like, not to diagnose here, but if you have concerns about like wanting like people being attracted to you, like this is a weird thing to throw out there. I honestly kind of see it. Like I kind of see like the eyes a little bit. I see
Yeah.
I see why someone would say that. I would not repeat that.
So I will say,
know?
I can't remember who, and this is a mild spoiler, but it doesn't. Chelsea has a moment later on where somebody else says a celebrity, look-alike that to my mind makes way more sense. And she should have said that. It's still definitely leading the witness, but it is not Megan Fox in Transformers for a millennial level leading the witness.
That is yeah. I purposely did not take notes on that. I'm like, no, moving on.
So the
the
episode does end strong though. So we go back to AD and Matthew, and we find out that Amber left. She was like, I don't appreciate what has happened, and I am gone. And AD calls out Matthew about it. And Matthew tries to like sort of backpedal and talk around it, but AD seems to
America loves an underdog.
America loves, and he even says America. He says the word America. I wrote here, America watching. LOL. Like, get fucked, Matthew. You pretentious prick. Like,
yeah. Look at the Team USA basketball roster and tell me you love underdogs, dick.
God. Oh my God. But she calls him out. He tries to backpedal, and she's like, she is not having it. And Matthew says it's over. He goes back to the room, and then he mutters to himself, I'm going after Amber. And he's gone. And then
I wrote a note here. The Matthew evil arc completes.
That is
Great
when
stuff.
that's when we got the text from the friend who was like, oh, never mind, we're not getting neurodivergent representation. We're just getting another asshole who was moonlighting as a neurodivergent person. But then we get our first meeting of season 6. We get to see Johnny and Amy see each other for the first time. They're both legitimately thrilled.
Happy right there, since I just watched it. That actually doesn't happen at the end of episode 2.
Oh, does it not?
Tease it. They tease it.
They tease.
They
I
tease
think
it.
that's
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's me scrubbing through again. So we get the tease of their meeting. Spoiler alert: it's pretty fucking cute.
Okay. I have one note here I took at the end of like when AD was walking away and she said, "Be so fucking real for real right now." And my note says, "Did you forget what show you were on?" Kind of like, yeah, this happens. This is season 6. of this type of show. How did you not know this was going to happen? Did you think you were immune to it? Were you the special child? Guess not.
So I've thought about this a
Sure.
lot actually because
all right.
no. It's like I've been watching The Bachelor and The Bachelorette for a long time. I've been watching Love is Blind since season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And you do have that moment of like, okay, you're on a late season of a dating show. You've had the ability to watch every episode and how things go from the beginning. And there is a season of Love is Blind where like somebody got on the show in a later season but like purposefully didn't watch anything about, I think it's Clay actually, if I remember correctly. I like knew of the show but wasn't familiar with the content of it. And I do think that there is some level of preparation that you can do knowing the show, knowing things. And like you even see this in Survivor. Like there was somebody a few years ago who got really far because they were so entranced in the Survivor world that they knew how the games work, they knew the strategy, but like when you actually get into that room, when you are in the moment, when you are feeling emotions, like it doesn't matter how logically you think about it, when you get down to like human emotions of like I am falling in love with someone actively, like a lot of that logic and reasoning goes out the window, or you struggle to remember like I am on a television show because you were just like you were in the moment, you were in that conversation, you were in that relationship or that love triangle or that love Zed, like whatever you want to call it. Like I don't think that any human being could potentially prepare themselves enough with as much knowledge of how the show works when you get into that room and conversations start happening and you're talking for hours and feelings start to build. Like I just don't think it's possible, as much as you prepare yourself in advance, to be ready for the way you feel once the feelings start flying.
Yeah, like produced honesty and produced connection is still honesty and a connection. And it still hurts when that produced reality TV trust is seemingly broken, which is what happened in the A.D. Matthew thing. So I'm trying to think if I had any other last minute notes on
one last note, so maybe you can end on a high. You can end on probably a high note, Mike. My note that I took is it's kind of a sad one because I was watching towards like the end, and it was when AD was doing her walk and she was crying to the other girls, and the one girl said, "I'm a fiance." I just had this feeling in this show where I'm like, I feel like this show is sending also a toxic message. So this is my kind of a bummer note, and maybe it's too much of a bummer, but I do want to note it because I think it's important. Some people die single and they're happy about it, and I feel this show will never acknowledge that, and I admit that kind of angers me. Like, it's a horrifically toxic message I think the show will never acknowledge. It's more like, no, you need to date and get married as fast as effing possible. And it's like, what if you're just cool vibing?
Well, then you're not going to be on the show. You're not going to watch this show. Like, I will say, like, yeah, you can be happy single, but like we're social creatures. We are literally intrinsically like motivated by centuries of programming to like try and be a mate. I'm not saying that like you can't be a parent and not want that, or like it's weird for somebody to like, nah, I'm good on my own, because like also there are a lot of trash people out here and people have bad experiences and sometimes they find their happiness on their own. I'm not going to say that, but like most people want to find a partner. Most people want a person to be with, and like most people get excited when they find that person that they've been looking for a long time. Like and also a dating show is just not where you acknowledge like single culture. Like that's just
Sigma
not where
grindset, and that's why
yeah, that's not
Matthew was
that's not
too
what this show's
beautiful
about.
for
Like
this.
why would they acknowledge that? Because like that's not the fucking point. Like
No, it's just a thing of why I don't watch like reality dating shows like this, because I feel like the human experience is kind of super muddled and distorted, and it makes me feel not great. But that's my negative point. That's why I said,
Yeah.
Mike, before you get to yours, you probably will end on a high note.
I do have a high note for us.
Go
I
for
think
it.
like I do think I like how so far in the season you see like a lot of the women and the men kind of are generally like pretty supportive and like talking. I like that. I like those scenes that we get with like everybody kind of chatting and like sharing notes and just talking. I think it's nice. Like in the past, I think it's been a little bit more like snipey sometimes. The high note though, I do think the women should get to do a majority vote to kill one man in the pods. I think
it would have been
do a
Matthew.
vote. They gotta have quorum, so it can't just be like, oh, 3 people voted to kill one person and he's gone. So you gotta have like a good majority. You gotta get a good majority of people, but like if if we're talking like 12 people, if like 7 to 8 people think you should die in the pods, like you might deserve it. I don't know. Just food for thought, Netflix. Well, folks, I think that's probably a good kind of stopping point here.
Yeah.
I've got some
So
good arcs.
we've met most of the characters that are going to be on our radar moving forward. The relationship dynamics have been set, and now we just need to move on to some more of the decisions and proposals, and then the setting of the honeymoon. So episodes 3 and 4 coming up, and you can find those here on unscriptedgaming.com. There you can find links to all of our media presence across the internet. You can find our socials on Facebook at Unscripted Game Podcast. You can find us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at unscript_gaming. You can find us on soundcloud.com/unscripted-gaming. There you can find our audio versions of the podcast. We're on all the major podcatchers, Google, Apple, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, all those. And then you can find our video version of the podcast on YouTube. Thank you for listening to Unscripted Gaming, Postscripted. Love is unscripted. My name is Josh.
My name is Mike. Good job. That was great.
My name is Ray.
I didn't even have to see that. I just did it from memory. Peace.